spawn. Post spawn. The post spawn.
Might be kind of big. Maybe. I don't know. Nope. That's 5. That's the one we're looking for, guys. It's funny because Brandon McMillan and the McMillans are out here. So this is kind of a lot of competition going on out here. I guess they wanted to come try to fish this stuff. But this is a giant. It's the kind of fish we've been looking for. And I think there's a few more. We got this girl on the Mag Ned Rig, 3/8 ounce with a Gambler 7-inch fat ace. And there's a shell bar down there, post-spawn fish, about 15, 16 feet of water. I might have to net her. Man, she bit it like a little fish too, just nibble, nibble, nibble. There she is. That's a good one. It's like 6. All right. How about that, guys? Look how fat. That's a classic post-spawn fish, and she chunked it, boy. She wasn't coming off. Hey, stop. Actually, that's about 5. Solid one, though. Let's get her back. Mag Ned Rig. Gonna throw back on that bar. Get back to town.
I like breaking new rigs down. I've gotten a bunch of questions on the Mag Ned Rig, and now that you've seen it in practice in the video, catching some fish that would not bite anything else, which is kind of cool and kind of what we're going to talk about. Let's run through terminal tackle setup, what I'm using on it, what's the rod and reel setup, what I think you should be throwing at, and why I think it works. Let's get to it. So first off, the biggest thing is jig heads, and this is the one that I showed you guys before. It's a 3/8 ounce Berkeley Ned head jig. Pretty freaking simple, pretty straightforward. Reason I'm using that is because it's the only one that I can find that weighs a bit more, but still has that head and that hook eye, just like that. Has a little bit bigger hook. It's probably, I don't know, I'd probably call that a 1/0 or a 1.5/0 hook kind of deal. A little bit bigger, not super big, kind of perfect. Got enough strength to do what we need to do. As you saw in the vids, you can land the bigger fish with it. Basically, that's our head that we're using. When it comes to baits, you know, there's a wide variety. What you saw in the video for the most part is, actually, I need a scissors. Hold on. Scissors. What you saw in the video was this guy. This is a 7-inch fat ace. Not the whole thing. You didn't see the whole thing, but you saw part of it, and that's the whole trick. So what we're doing, or what I'm doing, is I'm going right behind the egg sac right there, cutting it. It's an expensive way to fish, but that's what I think works. And we have this super duper magnum fat tail of a stick bait. It's freaking fat, and it's the pointed side. I'm sure, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't tried using this side. You could probably use this side. I really like how things come to a taper, because you can just see like how it shakes and twitches, and I think that's really key. But all I'm doing in the vid is basically taking that 3/8 ounce head just like this, and I'm going to thread it on. Let's see if I can do it perfect for the video for once. Thread it on just like, give it a little push. Hey, not bad, boys, not bad. See it just like that. So basically what it does then is it sits nose down, that tail sticks up when you're fishing like a structure, say a little rock pile or something. The tail sticks up, and if you lightly shake slack in the line, that tail will quiver. If you leave it sit, if there's a little bit of current, that tail's gonna quiver. It's just like the ultimate finesse rig. Might be a shaky head, I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna call it a Mag Ned Rig because that's what I see it as, and that's what makes sense to me in my head. I could be 100% wrong. Feel free to call me out. Don't care. So 3/8 ounce head though, that Mag. Now here's where you can vary, and that's when I'm gonna show you different baits. I like the super fat like deal, that 7-inch fat ace, that super fat profile, because I'm going after a little bigger fish. Temperatures are stabilizing. We're moving into a late spring, summer period, post spawn. So they want a bigger bait. They just don't want it like moving super duper fast. Now, if I'm fishing for like schoolies, or if I'm fishing like super cold water temperatures, yeah, I'm probably going to downsize. And when I want to downsize, this is what I'll do. So I have a wide range of stick baits. You know, you go down to something like that, and then you're cutting off right at the egg sac, and all of a sudden you have like a 2.5 inch, you know, thinner profile. You also saw I used some of the Demiki stick baits. A lot of guys have told me the whatchamacallit, the Z-Mans, the original. I don't know what they're called, but the Z-Man, the elastic plastics, for the smaller ones. But what I'm really focusing on here is the Magnum one, and the Magnum one is for this time of year. I think what's going to show off. Another fun way to do it. I'm not a super duper colors guy. But this 7-inch fat ace comes in the blue tip tails, and that's hot. Like, trust me on that one. But yeah, so there's a lot of variations. The big key to this, though, is I think keeping it big, keeping it short, and then keeping that stand-up head on there. And it's just a presentation that they don't see that much. It's kind of finesse, but it's still enough bulk to draw a bigger bite, as you saw in the vids. We're still getting big bites from fish that don't want to bite anything else. It's just a different look. Hookup ratio is pretty freaking awesome too, and I guess that's a good transition. Let's talk about what we're throwing it on real quick here. It's pretty freaking simple what I got it on. This is a Dobbins Fury. It's a 704, so that means it's a 4-power rod. Don't be deceived. 4-power rod kind of sounds like a medium heavy, if you will, maybe. This rod is more of a medium. It's got a pretty soft tip, even though it's rated as fast. So it's a softer, let's say it's on the higher end of like a heavy medium, I guess you could say. That's the best way to put it. And that's what you want, because the tip on this thing is supple enough, because a lot of these fish are going to bite and you'll just feel weight. You're not going to feel a tick. You're not going to feel all that normal jazz. It's just going to be dead weight. I really compare it a lot to Nico rig fishing. You know, twitch, 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 let it sit, and you don't feel so much you don't feel them bite it, you just feel that weight load up. And that's why I want this kind of softer tip rod. Like I said, they say it's a fast action. It's more of a moderate fast. Like it has some wonk to it, which is good for this kind of situation, because you want it to load up right, and you want it to kind of, look at what I have tied on it. You know, you want it to load up and put that hook in the fish's mouth just right. You don't want to pull it away from him. You don't want to overset the hook. You just kind of reel down, and I just reel down and sweep, man. It's almost like a Carolina rig setup. Like, you don't set the hook on them. You don't slam their freaking jaw, because with that small of a hook, like, you don't need to. And if they're biting that funky, you never know how they have it in their mouth if you got to throw something like this. Other than that, terminal tackle wise, it's on 12-pound fluorocarbon. This is Seaguar Red Label 12-pound. Dude, I get made fun of, but it's cheap. It's like awesome in bulk spools from Tackle Warehouse. It does the job. It's not perfect, but it's not horrible, and it's cheap. Did I mention that? Lastly, reel wise, this is actually an older Corrado. I don't even know which one it is, like the 200 something or other. 200G. It's actually a piece of crap, but hey, it is what it is. But it's an older Corrado 200G. It's a 6-to-1 ratio, not super fast. Reason I got this thing on here, I want to fish slow. I don't want to move the bait that much. Even when I'm twitching it, I don't want to move that bait that much. Kind of counterintuitive, because usually you want to pick up a bunch of line when you're dragging, you know, twitch, 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 pick up that slack line. I need to restrict myself, otherwise I'm going to go reel. I want to power fish it. You can't power fish a plastic like this. You got to slow down, and you actually got to dead stick it. It's most deadly when you dead stick it or you shake slack line. So I don't want to put a high speed reel on it. I might down the road do that, but frankly, this just slows me down. It slows me down the way I retrieve it. If I am dragging it a little bit on the bottom, like a shaky head, let the comments go wild now. But it just slows me down. So 6-2 run reel, just fast enough to pick up line, just slow enough to kind of slow me down. But that is the setup. And dude, what you want to throw it on? We're in a post-spawn period down here for the most part. There's a few random betters still laying around, but post-spawn period, so these fish are not so happy with us because we beat them up in the bank and we beat them up pre-spawn. So, and they were spawning. They're just not in a good mood, dude. They're tough to catch, but you can see them down there, and they need to eat. They might not want to eat, but they need to eat. So I'm seeing them down there on the graph, or if you're on kind of a transitional area, say a 5-6 foot flat, you know, from a spawning flat going out, This is a great bait, but you need to know where the fish are before you're picking it up. This is not the greatest search bait. I'm going to tell you that 100 times over. You don't go throw this around when you got 47,000 acres you got to cover to find fish. When you know where they're set up, it's a great way to trigger bites that you can't get, basically. And in this situation too, it's not even like you have to fish your way to find those bites. A lot of the times what I'm doing is I'm seeing the fish on the graph and going, hey, I know those are bass. I know they're down there. I need something that I can fish very precisely, very slowly, and that will trigger them to bite when nothing else will. And that's when I'm pulling this out. So if you're lined up on fish, if you're set up on them, this is the thing to go to. It'll get bites where you're not able to get a bite on anything else. I keep saying it because it's true. Now, for the most part, I am throwing this in like open water situations, maybe around brush or around a log. On top of shell bars, it works fine because that head just kind of walks over, it keeps the hook up. That's actually a cool note. If you're on shell or kind of gravel, not so much big boulders, but gravel and little chunk rock, this thing, it will keep the hook up. The head keeps the hook up, keeps it standing. So it actually walks over that much like a football jig would, whereas like your Texas rigs and that, you can oftentimes get kind of like wedged in the shell and that kind of stuff. So it actually walks your cover pretty well. You don't want to fish it that fast, but I'm throwing it around shell, around grass lines, sand flats and that. Areas where those fish are transitioning, whether I'm seeing them on the graph or whether I know it's a transition area to a deeper summer haunt, but it's hot, dude. Give it a try. It's when I'm calling a Ned rig, give me hell, talk all the smack you want. I don't care. Call it a shaky head. Whatever you want to call it, definitely fish it because it freaking works. 7-inch fat ace on there. I like that bigger profile, that bigger chunk stick on there. You can go to smaller ones, but that's more your traditional Ned rig. 3/8 ounce head. Right now, the only one I can find is Berkeley, and that's why I'm going with it. But it's that heavier weight, gets it down on the bottom. For some reason, post-spawn fish, you might see them up on the graph, they're eating off the bottom. They are freaking down on the bottom. I'm just gonna tell you, man, that's the way it's going on. So give it a try. Mag Ned Rig. All the links to the products and that are down in the description box if you want to try it out from Tiger Warehouse. As you can see, it's catching some fish down here. And I got a lot of faith in it. I guess maybe that's the trick. I think it's a cool, different look, but it still involves kind of the principles I like, fishing bigger baits, but in kind of a different way. So give it a try, guys. Tight lines, make sure you subscribe, and support real fishing, baby. Till next time, till we catch some more fish and figure out something else, all right? Keep it real, guys.